Hello and welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. This is Rav, your host, recording again from another beautiful day here in Bali, Indonesia. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are safe, hope you are well. And let's get straight into this one because I've got a host of things to talk about. We're going to talk, of course, pre-season, the victory last night. Indonesian time it was last night. 3-2 over Newcastle. There's Zubamendi to talk about, Mikel Merino's finishing, Max Dowman. Oh my goodness, we have to talk about him. Lots of other important points to discuss, as well as the monumental signing of Viktor Gyökeres and the unveiling in front of the Singapore crowd last night. So we have to talk about a number of things. So let's just get straight into it. And before I do, thank you for your feedback about my recording a few days ago. I think the audio was a bit patchy for some. I've heard you, I've listened, so hopefully this is a lot better. I've booked a conference room here in the resort. The kind staff, very, very accommodating to every single request I have. They're just amazing, beautiful people here. I highly recommend you come and be kind to the locals, be kind as a tourist, because the way people go out of their way to accommodate you and make you happy, it means the world. So please be kind and be respectful in return as well. So before I get onto the match itself, we just have to talk about the significance of Viktor Gyökeres. Now, for those of you who have listened to my recent recordings, I'll just quickly recap my stance. I'm fine with the signing. I mean, we obviously needed to finalize that key piece of business this season. You know, Arsenal have we've made too many. We've overlooked this for too long. We've been too reluctant to pull the trigger, add that extra firepower that the squad has needed probably the last 2 or 3 windows consecutively, right? So I think I've covered that topic enough, and I'm sure everyone's sick to death of hearing about last summer's transfer window, January, the injuries. I think we're all just over it, right? So I'd rather look forwards rather than backwards. So Viktor Gyökeres, I think it's fair to say he probably wasn't on our radar 6 months ago or 12 months ago. I think all the noises we heard coming out of the club from very, very reputable sources was that Alexander Isak was number one. Due to a number of factors, his price, injury record, it was just too out of reach. And it really remains to be seen. I'm fascinated to see if Liverpool can finalise a transaction for him, because at the time of recording, I saw some news this morning from Ornstein, one of the best in the business, of course, that Bayern Munich have agreed a fee with them for Luis Diaz. So, you know, they are spending, they are moving. The way they generate fees from sales, it's incredible. It's testament to them. It predicates a lot of their business. And I'm hoping now, with just bringing this back to an Arsenal point of view, that Andrea Berta, that he can really unlock some of that area of Arsenal's balance sheet, which has really been questionable the last few years. We just haven't been able to sell as well as we should have, sell at the right time, sell when players have peak value, rather than sort of keeping them hanging around and they're frozen out in the cold, playing very little minutes. And, you know, everyone can see this across the market. You know, why would they pay premium top dollar when they know that some of these players are on big wages? Arsenal want to offload them and they just wait it out. Either they run the contract down or Arsenal pay them out and cancel contracts. So it's going to be a slow moving aspect. But with Andrea Berta now, someone of his standing, his ilk, I'm really hoping we can start to see some decent fees incoming to offset our significant spending. So that was I digress for a moment, because my point about Gyökeres was that, to me, clearly Isak was number one. The club put in a lot of work behind the scenes for Benjamin Sesko, and from what I saw in that Athletic reporting, he still seemed the most likely entering this off season. It still seemed the most likely transaction to come about. Now, for a host of reasons, you know, like the market itself it's just mad. Like how I say this every year, right? Like the exponential increase in fees, especially for forwards. They always come with a premium. So just signing a forward or a winger or a striker, they're already at the top end of the price bracket in terms of what you pay. Now, then you add on top of when you're selling to a Premier League club, a big club like the likes of Arsenal, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City. There's always an extra premium when you're selling into the Premier League because of the financial standing. So already a deal for Šeško was going to be very, very expensive. Of course, that was a given. But then you start to see some of the reporting that Leipzig were wanting like around the 90 million euro mark. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. It's an incredible premium to pay, and strangely enough, I know I've already mentioned Liverpool here, but Liverpool have paid that for Ekitike. They haven't paid a price that represents potential or upside, or we think this guy is going to hit these heights in 2 or 3 seasons. 95 million euro as a total package that they've paid. That is a ready-made striker now, finished product, ready to go bang from day one. Like, that's a hell of a premium to pay. And I can understand Arsenal's reluctance to do that for Šeško, right? Because we have so much work to do. I mentioned that earlier, that we have so much business to attend to. Due to our own inaction in previous windows, we have a lot of areas of the squad that need injection, that we need to sign. I think I've mentioned this in a number of recordings now, literally across the front to the back of the squad, from goalkeeper, defense, midfield, wing, centre forward. We have needs across all of them. And so far, we've been able to get significant business done by trying to be a bit savvy with the commitments we make. Structuring of pricing is also important. I understand there's some frustration within the fan base. Look, I don't really do Twitter. It's just not really my thing. I'm probably showing my age here as well. But for a 45-year-old man, which I'll be 45 in a week and a bit, it's just not really my thing, right? Just to see that reactionary element to it all. Like, just pay the fee. What are we quibbling over? €2.5 million, just pay it. It doesn't work that way. Because Arsenal, every financial commitment Arsenal make, it's not just Mikel Arteta saying, hey, pay it, or Andrea Berta, pay it. It's a collective group between owners, the managing director, Richard Garlick, our chief financial officer, because we have commitments structured over the next 12, 18, 24 months. We are still about to finalise the last component of Declan Rice's transfer. Right, £105 million commitment from a few seasons ago. So staggering these payments, this structure in the most favourable way, it's critical for an institution like Arsenal. We are trying to do so much. And sometimes these things just need finishing touches. It just needs a little bit of patience. Just let it play out. And ultimately, we get the results. So Viktor Gyökeres was officially announced. I believe it was Saturday night, Sunday morning by the time I saw it. He was straight on the plane as well. I think from what I read or heard, it was actually in the initial reporting that he will be joining up with the squad, the pre-season tour. So he was straight on the plane. I think Andrea Berta came with him from London to Singapore. He did all his media work, the usual interviews, the clips, the Bane celebration. Yes, please. I've been practicing that in the mirror as I speak. I'm a huge comic book nerd myself. Batman is my number one by far. I'm also, I think I've mentioned this before as well, I'm a Lego nerd, right? I collect minifigures, superhero minifigures. I'm very proud of my little collection I have up at home, up on my wall. It lights up beautifully. I've got my Bane minifigures there waiting for me when I get back to for me to hold and talk to and play with. So yeah, so it's full of Lego, Batman, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, superhero stuff. I eat this stuff up for breakfast. So sorry for another digression, but just for me, just to have that, I've been saying it all day. I say it to my boys all the time. They see me doing the face, and they hear me saying no one cared who I was until I put on the mask. It's great. It's really great. It's a real spring in my step. So to finally get him signed, it's a key piece of business that thankfully Arsenal have now done. And he was unveiled last night. You can see the enthusiasm in him. You can see it within the crowd. There's a real energetic nature to it all. And look, whether he plays or not in Hong Kong, it remains to be seen. But the fact that he's here, he will be acclimatizing, he will be training, he will be integrating with the team. Like, this stuff is critical because the Premier League is only just a few weeks away, literally. How quick time goes, how quick time flies. We need to be ready. With Arsenal's opening first few matches of the season, we can't afford to be, trying to slowly integrate players and bring them into the fold. There are a number of key matches early in the season that we want to maximize our points in. So well done to all involved for finally getting that transaction done. It's a great moment for the club. Okay, so on to the match itself. I'll just get a few rants over with, and I'll just get back to talking about all the positive stuff. I didn't like, for the fact, to begin with, that, look, I understand we're in a commercial world, right? You need to maximize revenue and commercial opportunities, right? So Premier League clubs playing Premier League clubs, it's a big draw card with how global the Premier League brand is. So I understand all of that, okay? So please don't get me wrong. I understand and acknowledge all of that. But when I saw that Arsenal are fixtured against Newcastle, right, there's some very, very spicy matches of late. There's quite the rivalry the last two or three seasons. Newcastle slapped Arsenal around a few times last season. I'm not particularly happy with that. They beat Arsenal 3 times, right? And they certainly enjoyed it, and so did their fans. And they leave plenty on these tackles, and some of the stuff that they get away with, it's maddening. When I look at, I don't want to get on too much of a rant here, but you see some of the red cards and the sanctions dished out against Arsenal for just technicalities. But then I watch match after match of guys like Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, and remember when he elbowed Jorginho in the head, and the rationale to not even give him a yellow card was that he didn't use it as a weapon. I mean, just what the hell is this? The way that they can get away with just leaving so much on and trying to hurt players, hurt Arsenal, and I'm sure many other clubs, right? I'm not saying it's just that it's just us. But it's just wild how they can just go around unchecked, unchallenged, and it wasn't pretty watching as well. From the opening half, you can see them leaving plenty on. I mean, Trossard, copped a few early on. There was one that, Havertz, I think his boot actually punctured, with studs at the end of his toes, and it's just every challenge, every 50-50, I was just sort of half grimacing. Please get up. Please don't get injured. We want to come through unscathed. Sure, I want to beat them as well. But look, really, it's just pre-season. Who's going to remember this fixture in a few weeks' time or even 6 months' time, right? So I just wanted to get through unscathed, and watching that, again, it just left me bamboozled. And next up, we've got a North London derby against Spurs. Say what you want, pre-season or not. These are professional players. Once that whistle blows, that they certainly do take it seriously. So I'm just hoping that we can just get through these matches unscathed and get a fit, healthy group back to London. But look, to the match itself, I'll just finish off my rant with some of the 2 goals Arsenal conceded. I mean, Arteta would be furious, pre-season or not. They were just very, very poor goals to concede. As good as Arsenal are, and as good as our defence is, we've got a world-class goalkeeper. I think our fullbacks are outstanding. Saliba and Gabriel, fantastic centre-half pairing, amongst the best in Europe. But just one of the weird things Arsenal has had, this little weird, quirky knack the last few seasons, that we have this weird stat where we just somehow concede a goal out of nowhere. We concede a goal, like the first shot on target type goal. It's just really, really strange. And it's I know it doesn't quite reconcile with how good a defence we are. That's why I call it a very quirky outlier kind of stat. But it was on show again last night. We I don't think they barely touched the ball the opening 5, 6, 7 minutes. Then out of nowhere, they get in behind the fullbacks, too much space to operate in. The ball cuts back in, and it wasn't even a good finish. I think it was Elanga who stroked the ball in. Sorry that I can't recall the actual name, because at the time on my other device, I was actually streaming. There was a fantastic cricket match going on too, England and India in day 5 of the test match. So I didn't see who struck the ball, but it was a terrible shot. He's basically just, scuffed it into the ground, and it bounced and just sort of, dawdles in, next to Raya. And it was just a really weird goal to concede. I know part of pre-season is that you just get all this rustiness out of you, and I'm hoping that we just don't see that sort of stuff when the real matches begin. I'm happy to concede all of those quirky sort of goals are now in pre-season, because when the Premier League starts again, I'm hoping we don't see that replicated. Just a very strange goal to concede. And then, that the second goal they conceded too, you can see Raya was furious. From distance, it wasn't even like a blasted shot. It just got lost in a sea of bodies, a sea of leads, and Raya saw it late, and it doesn't reflect well on him either, because he normally eats that stuff up. From shots outside of the box, it's not often he's beaten. So happy to get all that stuff out of the way. But look, let's get back to Arsenal. I thought we worked our way back into the match beautifully. The first goal was a thing of beauty. It really was. It was all the stuff that Arteta wants. High pressing, forced the turnover, didn't concede the foul. We moved it on quickly. I think Zubimendi was instrumental in that entire first half, how quickly we were moving the ball, progressing the ball forward. All the stuff that we know about Zubimendi was on display, that he can nip the ball quickly, and he turns and he goes. He's looking to progress. He's looking to advance, and that's fantastic for Arsenal. I want to see just a general level of speed. Speed is more about how fast you can run. Speed is about a tempo of movement, progressing and advancing the ball forward. And certainly we are seeing that already unfold with Zubimendi in the middle. So then the goal linked up beautifully. It was a lovely little ball played by Havertz. And I've got to talk about Mikel Merino. We say what you want about him. The man can finish. He's proven that time and again. We know he's not a striker, and we've all covered this at length over the last few months. Since the injuries hit in January, and Merino came into the team as the starting striker February onwards. We know his limitations, and we know his game time may be, limited this season. With hopefully we have a number of options to choose from, right? But Mikel Merino, he can strike a ball. A very technically gifted footballer. He's very technical, very elegant looking. He's just got a beautiful technique. We saw it on display. Well, actually, I referenced it just a minute ago. In February, when he came on in the second half against Leicester, he scored two very technically proficient goals. One from a header, beautifully tucked away by the cross from Ethan, and the second goal, the cutback across from the left from Trossard. And on the bounce, on the volley, he's just stroked it in beautifully, cushioned it beautifully on the bounce on his left foot into the goal. It's unsavable, and he did it against Madrid. He beat Courtois when a lot of others were struggling to beat him. It took two worldies from Declan Rice to get past Courtois in that match that night at the Emirates. And he just tucks the ball away beautifully. Like, he just finds the corner. He knows where he's going to hit it. You don't have to blast it. You don't have to rocket through it. You just connect, you time it, and you connect perfectly, and it's a goal. And he did it again last night. It was unsavable. The moment he struck it, it's a goal. Right. So say what you want about Mikel Merino. Right. I like him taking shots. When he's going to be on the pitch this season, I'm hoping he can do exactly what he was acquired for, what he was signed for. We want him attacking the box. We want him hitting that back post. We want him arriving in time in his runs to be picked out. And if he's taking a large percentage of our shots when he's on the pitch, that is fine by me, because he gets them on target, and you never know what can happen. It can go in, it can go for a corner, it can be saved, it can come in for a rebound, for a tap-in. You never know. But this is the guy I want taking shots on goal. So well done to Mikel Merino. So speaking of finishing, I just have to point out how good was that a finish for an own goal. If you're going to score an own goal and you're going to rifle the ball into the net, that's how to do it, right? So it was, look, I'm all joking aside, it wasn't a great look from Newcastle point of view. Was it Murphy? I believe it was. But man, did he strike the ball beautifully into the roof of the net. So within like a minute or so of Merino's opener, Arsenal found themselves level and then went ahead 2-1. And I think that was a much more deserved reflection of the game at that point. So Arsenal went into the half 2-1 ahead. Soon after, yes, I've already covered the Newcastle equaliser to get it back to 2-2. Now, this little part deserves its own little segment, so please indulge me for a moment. We have to talk Max Dowman. Now, again, if you are a repeat listener on my channel, well, if you are, firstly, thank you so much. And if you're new, then you are most welcome here, and thank you for joining. So I'll just recap briefly. I've been reluctant to talk too much about Max Dowman because you also have to remember he's a child, and I don't say that in a negative way. I'm not saying that to denigrate him at all. We're talking about 15-year-olds. And I also made mention towards the end of last season, when I saw what was happening with Lewis Skelly, he's a teenager himself, 17, 18 years old, Ethan Waneri. When you see how they're being, how Lewis Skelly in particular was being portrayed by certain sections of the media, and we all know the reasons why. Okay, he's just it just happens to players of color. It happens at a different. It just happens at a different level. I don't think I'm telling anyone anything new with that. So the sentiment I'm referring to is that we have to remember we're talking about children. We're talking about someone's child, someone's son, someone's daughter, their older brother, younger brother. We just need to keep perspective. I know it's very hard to do right now because every single good moment we can just see clipped up and shared and circulated online, and I know it can spread from everywhere, from YouTube Shorts to TikTok and all these other things that I don't really participate in. However, I know how popular it is. What we sometimes forget is that we're talking about someone so young. And same thing with Marley Salmon, right? 15 years old. It took my breath away the other night when they came on against Milan, and they both came on again. And when I'm watching, I'm watching on a screen, right? I'm not standing in the stadium, but when you look at the screen, I couldn't pick out the 15-year-olds. And I mean that as an absolute compliment. I mean that in terms of their physical stature. They don't look like young children who are just going to be bullied off the ball or whatever. That they look like they belong against grown men. Players basically double their age, right? I'm going to come to Joe Linton in a moment when I get back to Dowman. But just to finish off this point, I understand there's a tremendous amount of hype on Dowman, and we have to be really, really careful about this. And I know Arteta has spoken about this as well, but the need to, I think he used the word protect as well. And looking at Arteta himself is a father, right? And I'm sure many of you out there too, if you're listening, you have children too, you understand this angle that sure, you want to nurture and develop your children to excel and succeed in the world. However, you also want to guide and protect them and just try and block out the noise around them too. So that's a very, very difficult balance to strike. It's very, very difficult, especially now more than ever with how much of an online world it is. So Max Dowman, when he came on the other night, and he within the opening minute, he took the ball and he's just charging forward. He's direct. He's going for goal, and he almost scored in his opening few moments against Milan. And the same things happened again. There are some players that you just can't stop. They just bang on the door so much that they're saying, "I'm good enough. I'm ready. Put me out there, please, and let me show what I can do." And maybe that's what we've got on our hands here. And maybe we don't. And that's okay, because he's 15. He's 15 years old. Salmon's 15 years old too. So when we refer to them and talk about them, I also just want to just make sure, just with the same level of caution, they're still children. From what I read and heard, I mean, there are a lot of protocols around in where they can and cannot get changed in the dressing room. Just think about that for a moment. Isn't that just incredible? I read again this morning that there's, I forgot what the terminology is called. I believe it's called safeguarding, because they're minors, right? So they're 15 years old. So you have to be very, very careful following these protocols where they can even get changed alongside other grown adults and whatnot. It's just, he's a child. Full credit to themselves. Full credit to their families, their parents, all the unseen stuff, driving all across, peak hour traffic, training, school, matches, whatnot, all the sacrifice that all parents and families do. And for it to come off and to have an experience like this, I just hope that they're all enjoying and they're all so proud. And whatever happens from here happens, of course, that will take care of itself in its own natural pathway. But what a moment for them all. I can't help but get emotional just watching that. And that's just me with my Arsenal hat on, also my parent hat on. It really is incredible what they're able to do. So back to the match itself. And I touched on this before about what Newcastle seemed to be able to get away with. And you saw like Joe Linton, I mean, come on, man. Like, what the hell was that? Like a forearm to the face, right? Come on, it was just ridiculous, right? It's just he's trying to just sort of he's trying to say, welcome to the big time. I'll show you who I am, and Dowman, he just gets up, brushes it off, right? And this unfortunately, that this is the kind of stuff that awaits him, right? When people see such young emerging talent coming onto the pitch, that they want to put them back in their box. So this is the kind of exposure, rightly or wrongly, that Dowman and whatnot, they're going to have to get used to, because there are going to be grown men wanting to take them down a few notches. Credit to Dowman, he just gets back up, and that passage of play to win the penalty was just a thing of beauty. I'm sure you've all seen it. If you weren't watching it live, I reckon that clip is everywhere on Arsenal social media too. Absolutely rinsed Joe Linton and won the penalty, which I'm very, very glad Odegaard scored. It was good to see Odegaard just strike the ball with some power, and Odegaard himself is looking like he's put on a bit more mass again. Again, something I'm reluctant to talk about. I'm not really one of those people to talk about. Like, I don't want to body shame anyone and that sort of stuff, because you just never know what someone's going through behind the scenes. Clearly, to me, Odegaard's physique towards the back end of last season, I think that was by choice or by design, because he must have been carrying so much pain and inflammation from the ankle surgery. So maybe that was just a conditioning thing that he needed to do in order to navigate that pain match by match and continue to play. That in itself is another story, how much he continued to play, and should he have been sat down earlier. Had Arsenal had better luck with injuries last season, maybe it would have been a different outcome, but for now, it is what it is. It is great to see Odegaard just looking a bit more his natural self and striking the ball with power, and I'm hoping that bodes well for the season upcoming. So Arsenal go ahead 3-2, largely orchestrated by that Dowman passage of play. And what was really interesting post-match was a few Newcastle players went and made, of course, they all shake hands and they have a bit of a chit-chat with the players, as a lot of post-match scenes usually demonstrate. But a number of players went over to Dowman, and that was interesting. I was watching that, and then the feed cut off to show other footage. But there was something in that. Maybe they've just gone over to him to say, "Geez, well done, young man. And you belong here. You can play." Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know, but that was just my interpretation at the time. So well done to Max Dowman. I think there's only so much you can contain the hype. I get it, but if you're listening to this, please also just keep in mind of the context of what I said. He's still 15, and let's just continue to support him, support the pathway that the club is trying to create for him, and best of luck to him. Okay, so elsewhere, just some couple of quick points before I wrap this one up. The squad will now move to Hong Kong. I think that's the end of the Singapore leg. They'll go to Hong Kong to play the North London Derby, which I mentioned before, on Thursday evening. So I think aside from Calafiori, it looks like it's largely a clean bill of health. It remains to be seen if Timber and Gabriel will be involved, but I'm sure they're on their own respective training programs. I should just talk about Calafiori for a moment. Look, I really like him. I think I've said this many, many times. I think many do. You can see the attributes he brings, especially him in his more natural position as a centre half. These recurring injuries, they are a bit of a worry. I'm hoping it's nothing too serious. Arteta didn't give much away post-match, as he usually doesn't. He said something along the lines of, I'm just paraphrasing here, so apologies if I've got the exact wording incorrect. Said something along the lines that Calafiori didn't look too worried, but then again, when a player says they need to come off, that can be a worrying thing in of itself. So something along those lines. Let's just wait and see. If he needs to just sit out, I think we should just do it right. It's just pre-season. Calafiori with a solid run of games, if he was able to string together 2-3 months at a time, I'd love to see that, because we haven't really. We've only been given glimpses of what he's capable of. But if he can string together that volume of football, I think it's going to be fantastic for Arsenal. I just think so. He clearly brings something different, and it's just a bit of a shame that we just see a lot of stop-start nature to him. So hopefully, touch wood, fingers crossed, that it's nothing too serious. Elsewhere, there's some reports about Gabriel Jesus, some interest back home from Brazil. I think it took me a little bit by surprise, because on face value, it's a very difficult deal to do when a player is recovering from such a serious long-term injury. And the only way those things can really come about is if the player pushes for it, if the player is asking. And if Gabriel Jesus, if he feels that's the best thing for him, right? He's had a horrible run of luck. Ever since that World Cup, he was so good in the opening few months at Arsenal. So was Zinchenko. They lifted the levels collectively with their experience and their I guess their mentality, right? They elevated. It permeated through the entire club. Right? Those opening few months, irrespective of what happens, I will always remember so fondly from Jesus and Zinchenko. Kind of wild that just a few seasons now, for different reasons, both of them find themselves kind of on the outer. Do you know what I mean? It's just that's a whole nother story altogether. But Jesus has had a horrible run of luck. He's had a number of knee surgeries since, and maybe a player gets to a certain point where he's got to think longevity. He's got to think beyond. He's got to think about his career, but beyond that, right? Like he's got young children himself. What condition does his knees want to be when he's in his mid to late 30s, 40s and 50s and beyond? So maybe the time has come to seek a move outside of the Premier League. I don't know. Maybe there's some complications behind the scenes with his recovery that, he's under some medical advice that, that he's at risk of repeat injuries. Like whatever it is, I can only speculate. But a deal like this doesn't really come about unless maybe the player and his family and his camp are requesting that. And I'm sure if there's a deal there to be done, Arsenal can accommodate that. I think Mikel Arteta, they have a fantastic relationship. I think we'll support him and wish him all the best if a deal can be done. If obviously whatever deal can be done is going to come at a very, what's the word? It's not going to be the most financially lucrative, right? He's on big money. I think he's still amongst Arsenal's top earners because of that contract I mentioned before when him and Zinchenko were signed. Those are difficult deals to move on, especially outside of the Premier League. So I'm sure Arsenal will absorb or take some kind of hit. And whatever loan fee or transfer fee, it's going to reflect the situation as well. So it may not be the most transformational outgoing, but if it's something that he wants, and then Arsenal can look to reinvest that area, that player in the squad, that missing piece, to acquire someone of the likes of Eze, right? Because I think all the noises we hear from the club is that we want Eze. However, we're a little bit stacked in, there needs to be some outgoings, and we're talking the likes of Vieira. Nelson looks close to Fulham, according to Ornstein, which would be great for him and the club. There's Sambia Lokonga still needs finalising, right? So there are a few players on the outer. Karl Hein is another one. So there's a few bits and pieces to do and finalise. It'd been rumoured about Trossard too, but I don't know the latest on that. That seems to have news seems to have just gone a little bit quiet on that regard. So it remains to be seen. But if someone like Jesus enables that last cherry on top type signing of Eze, then I think it'll be something to watch. So let's see how that goes. Okay. I'm going to wrap this one up and get back to the holiday. Thank you so much for listening. As always, if I could please kindly ask if you would consider liking and subscribing on YouTube. If you are listening on your podcast platform, I would be most grateful, please, for a review, and subscribe and follow me on Apple or Spotify. Please let me know any questions, any feedback. I'll read every single word. I'm happy to answer any questions in my next recording. Please do reach out with any feedback whatsoever. Until then, please take care of yourselves. As always, I say this every single time, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world. It can be very overwhelming and very depressing. Please look after yourselves, your mental well-being. Be mindful of what you consume. Every interaction you have with, whether it be a stranger down the street, or friends, family, just be kind, check in on each other, reach out if you need assistance or help, and let's just try and be nice to each other. Let's just try and be kind. It costs nothing and it means everything. So until then, I will talk to you all soon. Stay safe, and as always, come on Arsenal.